ladies and gentlemen, the free Transcended Selector has a few days left on it, and we just did the Tier 3 Best of, so now let's rank the 32 characters that are available in the free Transcended Selector from best to worst. Now, fun fact, this list is actually the same as earlier this year. Earlier this year, for the anniversary, we got the same Transcended Selector with the same 32 characters on it. Since then, and I made this prediction back in, when was this? Back in April of this year, not that long ago. But I made a prediction with future value for Human Torch, Thing, and Hulkbuster, and we nailed it. We weren't correct about Beast, we weren't correct about Red Guardian, but we had a lot of clues, right? We had a lot of context clues for Hulkbuster related to War Machine in the voting poll, and then of course these two representing half of the Fantastic Four, where Mr. Fantastic and Doom were in that voting poll. So we're gonna actually run it back, and I'm going to sort of rapid fire rank all of these, and then we can discuss them together, because a lot of the list actually hasn't changed, and that was one of the big things that I noticed when making this and sort of preparing for this video. It was a little bit depressing. What happened to Awakened characters, Transcended characters in Marvel Future Fight, man? At one point, I don't want to say they were better than Tier 3s, but they were probably as good as Tier 3s. I would say probably as good as Tier 3s. And now it's like they're in the dirt, they're in the mud. They suck, dude. They just straight up suck. And the few that are left are genuinely on the cusp of being eliminated and replaced and just gone to dust, right? So this is how the list essentially shakes out. Most Transcended characters are just straight up not good. As you can see, there's very few Tier 4s on this list. Very few. Right, we have these 6 there, and then we have Shadow Shell and Moon Knight there, and that's it. We're done. There's so few, right? So if you're choosing who to transcend based on who's Tier 4, you only have 8 choices. That's out of 32. That means 75%, 3/4 of the Transcended Selector is not keeping up with a meta that's 2 years old now. Because 2 years ago they introduced, Tier 4s to the game. So that is brutal. That to me is brutal. That's the first thing I noticed, was there's just not a lot of Tier 4s. Most of these characters just have not gotten Tier 4s. Obviously, most of these characters are just not very popular as well. So that definitely hurts their probabilities and their potentials to get Tier 4. But at the same time, man, like, what are you gonna? You can't leave them. I guess, well, according to Tier 2s, you could leave them Transcended forever. But there are a few characters that I want to talk about that I want to highlight that could have hope. However, first we have to talk again about future value. I'm going to go down and double down on, again, I'm not going to go down on him, but I'm going to double down on Red Guardian. We know the Thunderbolts movie is coming out. I think this is an easy pick. He's definitely going to be getting a Tier 4 or at least a brand new uniform to make him maybe like a support for the Thunderbolts, a sleeper type character for the Thunderbolts, something like that. I'm also going to double down on Beast and combo him with Bishop for an X-Men 97 type update. We know that Emma Frost is still lingering from that ranking top 15 voting poll in quotations from early last year. That was, well, it was actually released early this year, but it was from late last year. And so we are still, we still have that in the pipeline for a mutant update. And what better update than the X-Men 97? Bishop is featured in that. Beast is featured in that. They could finally get Tier 4s, etc. And I'm going to also throw in Medusa for the same reasons as Emma, who's not featured here, obviously. But, oh, actually, right, no, Emma's not featured here, but she connects to the mutants via X-Men 97, and she's in the voting. And then Medusa, while not a mutant, connects to Emma because she's also in the voting along with, I think, Crescent. I think it's just down to, obviously we know Null's coming soon. So it's just Crescent, Medusa, and Emma who haven't gotten anything this year thus far, right? Everybody else from 1 to 13 or 14 or 13 or 12 or whatever has been knocked down. So I'm guessing that, sometime in 2025, since it's probably too late for her now, Medusa will get something, get a Tier 4. Maybe they'll try and create a sort of Inhumans PvP team. I'm not sure. The rest of the list, again, is pretty depressing. I think the top 2 are still the same from last year. Dr. Octopus and Spider-Gwen are just the best value characters overall. Unfortunately, Dr. Octopus is difficult to play. He does have the advantage of a team-up collection, which is great, which most of the characters here don't have, right? Hulkbuster's not in a team-up collection. Gamora's not in a team-up collection. Human Torch is not in a team-up collection. Neither is Spider-Gwen. So he does have the advantage of a team-up collection, but then he's pretty hard to play, right? He's not very proc-friendly. He's kind of annoying to play, blah, blah, blah. Spider-Gwen, while she can be proc-friendly and she is pretty fun to play and she's pretty easy to play, still leaves a lot to be desired between her and the next best, aka the #1 speed human female hero, Luna Snow. So it's tough to really recommend people to go all in on Spider-Gwen when we know she's already #2, which means as soon as someone replaces Luna, they're like, you know, Spider-Gwen's value is just going to plummet to down to the ground. So I almost like Human Torch more than her right now, not because he's a better overall character, but just that he's more recent and he's actually very, very strong. He does a lot of damage. He's a bit more PvE focused in the sense that he doesn't have as much PvP value as she does with her iframe ignore skill and her PvP focused artifact. So I think overall, if you're going for a more balanced build, Spider-Gwen's going to give you more value overall. She might actually give you the most value overall, I would say, for a balanced build. But Human Torch is just more recent of a character. He's about a year more recent than Spider-Gwen, which is kind of a big deal. And although he does less than she does, he does it very, very well. He hits super hard. And the nice thing about him is actually he doesn't need tier 4. So you know what? Considering that these characters may need tier 4 and you're probably not going to want to tier 4 any of them, I would just take them at their tier 3 level 80 value. And so in that case, I would probably re-rank the list something like this. Yeah, I would probably do something like this. Yeah. And obviously there's only those to consider. And I just consider her better than Moon Knight because she is a support, right? She has the HP support buff and she has the reflect reduction support buff. Those are quite nice. But yeah, overall, I don't have a lot of hope for this lineup, for this roster. A lot of ugly characters in here that I think may never get anything, like Elsa, Moon Girl, you know, War Tiger, Drax. These characters had a chance and they missed it. You know, Swordmaster. Like, what are these characters going to get, genuinely? On the other hand, I do still have hope for certain factions like the Defenders. I think Dakota, do you guys remember when Dakota, the guy from Marvel, was on the, I think it was the anniversary stream or it was another stream? Anyways, he was on a stream with 3RL and he mentioned the Defenders. So if someone at Marvel 3 years later remembers the Defenders, that means that it's probably on someone's radar. They wouldn't just bring that up out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So that's, anyways, I say, do you know what I mean? But really, I'm just sort of wrapping up my statement. You don't have to agree with me. I think the Defenders will get something in 2025. That's probably my prediction. I don't want to put them in future value and sort of confuse people because it's much less. These, I feel, are almost guaranteed. There's like 70% chance, 80% chance they get something. The Defenders, I'm talking about obviously Luke Cage and Jewel, Jessica Jones specifically. Not so much Iron Fist, but they could finally rework him for PvP, go all in on the Defenders PvP team, right? I think that's what they should do. And then, of course, not pictured here is the Tier 3 Daredevil. But I definitely think they could get something for 2025. And I think if they do a Defenders update, they should absolutely lean them all into PvP. Because what happened last time was they made Luke, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil for PvP as a trio for Timeline. And then they left poor bastard Iron Fist, Danny Rand, off on his own as just a regular character, right? For PvE, right? And his leadership buffed himself and buffed the Defenders. But let's be real. You weren't using any of them for PvE because they weren't good. So I think this time around, they're focusing a lot more on things like Otherworld Battle. I think they realize there's more money there. The ban lists are more frequent and heavy and sort of varied. And they see that the whales have an appetite for that. And they're willing to pay money. And they're willing to refresh and whatever and rank up these tier 4s aggressively. So I think a lot of the focus now for the devs in terms of balancing for PvP is actually on Otherworld Battle and not so much on Timeline Battle. And so I would expect a Defenders team, maybe with like a surprise Misty Knight tier 4 and give her the Defenders tag or someone else so that it can complete a team of 5, maybe even 6 Defenders. So for those of you out there who are big Defenders fans, because I'm not the biggest Defenders fan in terms of like reading all the comics and stuff, I wonder who the next 2 could be. Like, would it be, you know, Misty Knight and She-Hulk? Would it be, you know, Moon Knight? Would they make him a defender? I'm not exactly sure who else they could add to the defenders lineup, but they need someone else along with Daredevil, Luke, Jessica, and Iron Fist to sort of push a team like that. Other than the defenders, obviously you have Human Torch for Fantastic Four next year. So you could arguably put him in future value because you know the movie's coming out next year, and you know for sure they're going to be giving them, these two are basically shoo-ins to at least get a uniform, if not also a tier 4. I just thought of putting him here. He's okay, right? He's just a support for the Fantastic Four. He's nothing special there. But maybe they will finally, you know, go all in on the Fantastic Four team for Otherworld Battle, actually make them good, boom, and suddenly you're cooking with gas with Thing, right? But other than that, I'm looking at this list, and it's ugly. I got to tell you, it's ugly. There's really not much otherwise to be done faction in terms of factions. Yeah, I was honestly digging at straws. I was thinking, like, maybe I could talk about Scream because they love symbiote so much right now. But if they're going to do Carnage and they're going to do Null now, they're not going to do anybody else. So the boat has passed. The boat has sailed for Scream for at least a year or more. They're not going to do another Fear Itself thing, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with these two, Titania and Absorbing Man. And then what? You have half of the Warriors of the Sky here. Sure, I guess they may get something eventually. They may not. I don't know. It seems like the devs have really shifted their focus away from Transcended characters. I'm not exactly sure why. I could make speculation, and I could question, you know, I could bring up certain things like how much they cost to Transcend versus tier 3s, but I'll leave the list with you guys, and you hit me up in the comments down below and you let me know what you think. So yeah, smash the like button if you enjoy the content. I appreciate you guys watching this. I'll have more videos for you guys tomorrow. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.